All right, if you're an athlete, you know the drill. Before you can even dream about tryouts, there's that one last thing you gotta do, the sports physical. You know, that kind of awkward, always feels rushed checkup, officially called the pre-participation physical exam, or PPE. For most of us, it's just the last piece of paperwork between us and the season.
Oh yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're in some cold little room, you just want to blast through it and get to practice. You find yourself just scribbling no, 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 all the way down the health form, just praying the doc signs off so you can finally get out of there and onto the field, right?
But here's the thing. What if that whole annoying ordeal, that form and the quick checkup, what if it's actually the single most important exam of your entire life? And this isn't just some bureaucratic hoop jumping for the school. We're talking about something that could genuinely, seriously save your life.
Take pre-participation physical exams for sports very seriously. When I was a young athlete, I had to get the yearly physical exam as well. And we had to do it in one of these school settings. If you've ever played high school sports, you probably know how this goes. There were probably 300 or 400 kids that play sports, spread out over the gym and the locker rooms and all over the place. And you had to go from station to station. You'd have your urine checked, for various things. So there was stations where they'd listen to your heart and lungs, another where they'd check your vision, they'd do height and weight, and another one where you'd fill out all this paperwork. It was this horrible ordeal, but you got it done, basically in a few hours, and that knocked out the physicals for 300 or 400 people. But to be fair, we hated it and probably didn't take it as seriously as we should. I'm Dr. David Geyer, orthopedic surgeon and sports medicine specialist, and I provide education and commentary on sports and exercise, injuries, injury treatments, and injury prevention for athletes and active people so that you can stay healthy and perform your best. Now, you may be very familiar with the mass screenings that I just talked about, but I don't know that that's really the best way to do it. First of all, I think if you have the opportunity, and most people do, adults or even kids that have pediatricians or family doctors, that's where I would start. See your regular doctor. For one, they're not competing with 300 or 400 other people there, so they'll be able to hear, they'll be able to communicate better, but they also get to spend more time with you than they can in these mass screening settings. Plus, the doctor's probably going to know a lot more about you. He's got your record of all your prior illnesses and treatments, but he can ask questions and you might be more likely to bring up things that you wouldn't otherwise bring up. So I think it's always a good idea to have your physical exam done by your pediatrician, by your internist, or by your family medicine doctor. Another thing though that I would say is when you're filling out the form and it talks about your history, both your medical history and injury history, as well as the history of your family, take that form home and fill it out with your parents. 12, 13, 14-year-olds aren't going to know about medical problems of their grandparents or maybe their aunts or their uncles. And sometimes there's family conditions that can be very important. There are heart conditions that you can manifest, or the first clue is that a family member has it. And there are a number of cases that occur every year where the athlete dies, sudden cardiac death, and they had no idea that they had a problem in the first place. So it's important to just not check no to all the boxes. Take that form home, answer it very carefully, but talk to your parents or parents, fill that out with your kids to make sure that you give all possible information to the doctor. Another thing that I would say is, be very serious and honest about reporting symptoms, reporting, illnesses and prior injuries. I know you want to play, but the doctors and the athletic trainers need to know this information, not just to keep an eye on you during sports, to see if you have a problem, but to see if you need further testing. There was a story, and I can't remember what NFL team, but there was an NFL player on his physical. He mentioned to the doctor that he was having headaches. They did a workup and found out he had a brain tumor. It's very possible if he hadn't mentioned that to the doctor, it may have been too late when they diagnosed it. That just mentioning that may have saved his life. But you got to be honest. If you're having issues with eating or your regular periods, your menstrual cycle, problems there can lead to a stress fracture. If you're having constant knee pain or constant shoulder pain, that's worth talking to your doctor as well, so they can check it out and make sure that there's not something serious going on. And again, the athletic trainers and doctors can follow you over the course of the season to make sure that there isn't a worsening from baseline at your pre-participation physical. I know this isn't fun, but it's very important, and it's why we do it. So it's important that you not only do it like is required, but to take it very seriously. Now, have you had a pre-participation physical exam, or do you give them? Are you a physician or maybe a PA or nurse practitioner or an athletic trainer? I'd love to hear your experiences. So below this video, share your thoughts, share your experience. I know I would love to read those comments, but I bet viewers all over the world would love to read those as well. If you like videos like this and you want more information on sports and exercise, injuries and injury treatments and injury prevention, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Click the box in the upper right corner of the page. I record a couple of these videos every single week, and you'll get those videos delivered directly to you. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope this video was helpful. If you know friends that have kids who play high school sports, please share this video with them. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you right here next time.
I love this quote from JFK because it really nails the whole philosophy here. It's all about making sure your body, your foundation, is strong and healthy. Because all the talent and all the skills in the world just can't shine if that foundation isn't solid. So let's really get into the goals here. Because while, the main point is to flag any athlete who might be at risk, this exam does so much more to protect you, not just for this season, but for your whole athletic career.
Okay, so let's break down the 4 big reasons for this thing. First, the obvious one. Find any immediate health risks. Second, it sets a baseline for you. Think of it like a before picture of your body. So if you get hurt later, doctors know what your normal actually looked like. Third, it can uncover conditions that would make playing, say, a collision sport super dangerous for you. And fourth, it does take care of all the boring insurance and legal stuff for the school.
All right, let's pull back the curtain and see what's actually happening during one of these things. Because there are a couple of ways they're done, and every single part of the checkup has a very, very specific medical reason behind it.
So, these physicals usually go one of 2 ways. You might just go to your regular family doctor, which is awesome because they know your whole history. The only little catch is they might not be thinking about the specific risks of, say, wrestling versus swimming. The other way is the mass physical at school, where you go from station to station. It's super efficient for the whole team, but you totally lose that personal, one-on-one connection. But no matter where you get it done, a really good PPE is going to cover these 6 key areas. It always starts with your medical history and a basic physical exam, but then it dives into super important screenings for your heart, your bones, and just your overall wellness. We're going to dig into some of the most critical and honestly most misunderstood parts of this whole process.
Listen, it all starts with this piece of paper, and I'm telling you, it might be the most important part of the entire physical. It is so crucial that you fill this out honestly, probably with a parent. Don't just check no all the way down to get it over with. That history is literally the roadmap that tells the doctor exactly what to look for when they do the hands-on exam.
Okay, let's just talk about it. The part that can feel a little awkward. For guys, that quick genital exam isn't just some random weird thing. They're screening for hernias, which can get a lot worse with intense training. And it's also one of the only times there's a check for early signs of testicular cancer. I promise, it's fast and it's an absolutely vital safety check.
All right, let's shift gears to a part of the exam that is, and I'm not exaggerating here, a matter of life and death. The cardiovascular screening has one clear mission: to find hidden heart conditions that could be catastrophic for an athlete.
The absolute worst-case scenario that doctors are trying to prevent is something called sudden cardiac death, or SCD, and it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like: a sudden, unexpected death because the heart just stops working, often during intense physical activity.
And this is why this is taken so seriously. SCD is the #1 medical cause of death in young, seemingly healthy athletes. We're talking about kids who look like they're in peak physical shape, who are leaders on their teams, and who often have absolutely no clue that there's a dangerous issue hiding inside.
In the Health Beat, experts say half of all cardiovascular deaths are sudden cardiac deaths, and young athletes may be at risk and not even know it. See what one doctor is doing to reduce the risk and save more lives. Kevin Bondar can't ever remember a time when he wasn't swinging a tennis racket.
I grew up in a tennis family. My dad and my mom actually met on the tennis court.
At 13, Kevin started having chest pain when he played. Doctors found out tissue in his heart was too thick.
I was scared after that appointment.
Officially known as hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, it's the most common cause of sudden cardiac death in young athletes.
50% of sudden cardiac deaths are first cardiac events, meaning the patient did not know they had heart disease. Many of the athletes who die suddenly have underlying causes that are genetic in nature.
Dr. Robert Meyerberg opened a clinic to spot any heart defects that may be lurking in college athletes.
One is screening. That's the EKG, looking for those kids that we had no idea that there might be something wrong.
They also followed young people who know they have heart problems, as well as kids who start having problems when they're working out, like Kevin.
Talking about risk versus benefit, and this is the risk you're taking. Do you want to take the risk?
Kevin's fear that he'd never be able to play tennis again never happened. After being treated with beta blockers, he continued his collegiate varsity career.
I trust the care that I'm under. I trust the medication that I'm on, and I know my limits at this point. I think the screening might not bring you the results that you want to hear, but results that you need to hear.
More college athletes are being screened now, but there's a push for more screening in high schools, especially those in rural areas.
So what are the doctors looking for? Well, they're listening very carefully for red flags, things like abnormal heart sounds or murmurs. They're asking if you've ever had chest pain or fainted during exercise. And a huge one is asking about family history of early heart problems. They're even looking for physical clues like signs of Marfan syndrome, a genetic thing that can weaken the heart, which is why they might check your height and arm span. Any one of these is an instant referral to a heart specialist.
Sometimes your body type is ideal for sports. In other cases, the same body type may indicate something is wrong, even potentially fatal. That is why it is important to know about Marfan syndrome. It affects 1 in 5,000 people of all races and ethnicities, males and females equally. And it can lead to a sudden early death if it is not diagnosed and treated. The key is to know the signs: tall and thin body, long arms, legs, fingers, and toes, a curved spine, sunken or protruding chest, flexible joints and flat feet, unexplained stretch marks, early nearsightedness, or detached retina. Together, these may indicate a life-threatening problem with your heart and blood vessels. But you can live with Marfan if you are diagnosed and treated. You can dream again. Learn more at marfan.org.
But hey, the PPE isn't just about the heart. It's also designed to protect an athlete's body while it's going through the crazy changes of puberty. And that's where the maturity assessment comes into play. To do this, doctors use a system called the Tanner scale. It basically just maps out physical development across 5 stages, all the way from pre-puberty to being fully grown. Now, this isn't about judging anybody. It's just a scientific way to understand how vulnerable a growing body can be. The stage that doctors are really focused on here is stage 3. This is when an athlete is hitting their biggest growth spurt. And here's the wild part. While their muscles are getting way stronger, the growth plates, those soft spots at the ends of your bones where all the growth is happening, are actually at their weakest, most vulnerable point.
So you can probably see the danger, right? If you put a stage 3 athlete with those soft growth plates on a football field against a fully matured stage 5 player, the risk of a serious fracture right through that growth plate just skyrockets. This assessment is all about preventing that kind of dangerous mismatch.
The cool thing is, the PPE isn't some ancient form stuck in the past. It's constantly changing and evolving to keep up with modern medicine and the new challenges that athletes are facing today. Let's look at 2 of the biggest debates happening right now.
Okay, so a huge debate is whether every single athlete should get an EKG, which measures the heart's electrical activity. On the one hand, it could find really subtle heart issues that a stethoscope might miss. But on the other hand, it adds a lot of costs and can lead to false positives, which cause a ton of stress and unnecessary follow-up tests for athletes who are actually perfectly fine.
The other massive trend is the push to bring mental health into the physical exam. With all the insane pressure on young people today, the question is becoming, how do we check on the whole athlete, both mind and body?
Now, this is a tough number to look at, but we have to talk about it. In 2019, nearly 1 in 5 high school students, almost 19%, had seriously considered attempting suicide. This mental health crisis is real, and it absolutely affects athletes.
And in that same year, almost 9% had actually made an attempt. Numbers like these are exactly why there's such a powerful argument that any checkup focused on athlete safety has to include mental well-being too.
I want to share my story so I can help.
Understand that it's okay to not be okay.
It's time to talk. It's time to change.
When I played football, that was my language. That's how I communicated. And when that was taken away from me, I just felt like I was nothing. I was no one.
You know, you got so much responsibility as an athlete to your team. You know, you got to play at a certain level, and your teammates counting on you. You got the pressure from the media.
You know, when you experience the highs, and obviously you're going to experience the lows, and it's coping with the lows that is the most difficult part.
When, you know, I got into my state, it hit me like a brick.
Was that because
I didn't tell anyone because I didn't want anyone to think differently of me.
When I was playing rugby, my feet were not planted deep, they were shallow. Anything was knocking me around, and I felt like it was a balancing act. I had to fight against this, fight against this, fight against this, and hold on and survive and, you know, win a game, and it was just, thank God for that, let's move on.
I suffer from depression. Depression is with me on a daily basis. It is time for sport to accept its responsibility with this issue.
There's records, there's numbers that I'm really close to, and of course I feel pressure, but I will play, I will fight, and I will keep going on.
And my thoughts of wanting to take my life, they don't define me, and they will never define me, and they'll never win.
Struggles are going to happen in life. You know, you're going to get punched in the mouth at some point, but understand that you can get back up and dust yourself off and get back out there.
And everybody's going through something, and everybody, you know, has things that you can't see, you can't touch, that, you know, they're walking around with every day.
If your eyes hurt and you go to the opticians, if your head's hurt and you go and see someone about mental health, it'd be nice just to let it out rather than keeping it in. Because the more you keep it in, the more you explode.
I don't know why I opened up and talked about it, but I guess I was just sick and tired of just having it inside of me for 20 plus years, and I was ready to make a change.
I'm glad I got through it.
So, we end up right back where we started. This idea that skill and talent need a healthy foundation to stand on, that's the real heart of the sports physical. It's evolving, it's not perfect, but it is so much more than just a signature on a form. It's an investment in your health, your safety, and your future, making sure that your body and your mind are truly ready for every single challenge you want to take on.